There are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
I may not be a millionaire. I may not have a brand new Frigidaire. My clothes ain't all fancy, and my car ain't brand new, but there is joy in my house.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Joy in My House, inspirational reality radio show with a touch of recovery. A reality radio show where nothing is left unsaid.
And no one is insignificant who says it.
I'm joined here by my co-host and author of Shaped by the Master's Hands, Lolita Robinson.
Hi, how are you, sweetie?
Welcome
Good
to
see
another
you.
Sunday.
Another Sunday. Here we are.
I want to thank you all, the listeners and viewers out there who are being a part of the joy that we have in our house. We want to remind you that you can find us on Facebook /Joy in My House and engage with us. Be a part of our community here.
That's
Be
right.
a part of the joy that we have
Call
by
in.
calling in. You can find us on Twitter /Joy in My House. You can find all of our archive shows on latalklive.com. Just click on shows, click on Joy in My House, and we have all of our previous guest videos archived there as well. And if you're listening to us and you can just hear us, I want you to know that you can stream us live on any mobile device.
That's right.
On ustream.tv /LA Talk Live Radio or /Joy in My House. And I just wanted to
I am so, every week you do that. It's amazing to me. I just tell them, look, y'all just dial us up, okay?
I do
It's
want to let you
wonderful how
guys
you
know
do
that the studio line is
How
open.
you remember all that stuff?
You know what?
I remember the
As a
first show you were
G-
like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
On the first show I had to read it. But now, you
Yeah.
know, I know it because I think I engage with my audience,
Yeah,
with
you
my
do.
viewers.
Yeah, you do.
And I know that you're doing that now. You're posting and you're
Yeah,
commenting
I'm
a lot
getting better,
more.
y'all. I'm getting better,
And I think that's good. I think it allows us to engage with people who are
does.
being touched by the guests that we have on the show. So it's a blessing.
It is.
It's
So
definitely a
how are you
blessing.
doing after Richard went home,
You know, I'm doing okay.
buddy.
It's, we talk a lot about Christ in our life and working in our lives.
Right.
And when something like that tragic happens, like what happened in Boston, and you lose somebody, all of a sudden you think, well, why are you doing this, Lord?
Yeah.
But there's a lesson to be learned, and with that pain comes growth.
And it's not him. We have an enemy too that people forget about. But with loss, like you're saying with Richard,
Comes
it's painful.
growth.
Yeah.
And going through that, it allows me to view things differently. And I think it's
Right.
very important. I appreciate even the smaller things now.
Mm-hmm.
Just the time, I went to this amazing mariachi concert with my parents, and
Oh, how neat.
and I took my kids, and it was actually, this show influenced my daughter to take up the violin.
Oh, wow.
So now she's interested in music. So I got
Good.
an opportunity to meet the director, and the director personally invited me. And
Well, I want to shout out to Elsa and
Jose.
Jose. They have been the backbone to this ministry.
Yes.
You need to tell people that your parents.
and I
have
do all
really
the time.
been- Yeah.
My father, the way he
Yeah.
supported me,
Yeah, he
not
has.
just with the show, but just even emotionally to
Right.
have that support of my father, who's a physics professor, came with 12 brothers and sisters, put himself through college, was one of the first Mexicans to get his master's in physics from Cal Poly
Okay.
Pomona.
All right. That's what it's about.
I was just like,
the land of opportunity. We can't forget that. And I want to say a shout out to my son Joseph, who watches, and he's always posting. Thank you, Joe. I love you and I miss you. And the empty nest is horrible.
And I miss you too, Joe. We got to get together and
Yeah.
definitely, sit down,
Okay.
because we had a really good relationship. And,
Yeah.
and definitely missed that. But I do want to recap last week's show.
Wow. Sarah, my gosh.
Sarah Longstert has a new CD out
Yeah.
called I Will Rise, and you can find that on her website. Sarah Longstert Facebook as well. She had an amazing
She did.
testimony.
And her story stuck with me. The fact that what she had to overcome, the years of therapy for Asperger's, right?
Yes.
And how God is using her in a magnificent way, which I'm really looking forward to, not stealing the thunder of our guest today, because taking risks is still hard for me. It really is. I still want to hide. And for her to do what she did, and her mother, it just gave me a lot of faith this week to keep going.
Same here, for her to be even just as young as she is,
Yes,
and to
and
be able to step out in that faith.
Step out and speak, be the spokeswoman for autism, and sing and do competitions and all of these things what people are calling, handicaps or whatever. I told her I wouldn't call it that, but she says she has to in order to get the speaking.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that can keep us down, and that really helped me. It really did. And I'm looking forward to today.
Yeah, for being a young lady, how powerful.
Yes.
How powerful.
Yeah. Did it help you too? I mean, well,
Oh,
you're more of
yes.
a go-getter than I am. I'm so much more. I think
But it
because of
does-
things what happened to me, I still hide. I don't like to put myself out there. But
Mm-hmm.
do you feel that way at all? You don't seem to be.
I do. There's certain things, when my self-esteem gets to me, it kind of reminds me, hey, why should you be there? Why should you be talking to that person?
Mhm.
And I always got to praise God and be like, it's for his glory.
That's right.
And
We're
not put
servants.
myself out there.
Good for you.
But it's Christ that's has this platform. And if he wants to share this, he'll network just like we network with our guest today.
Oh my gosh.
It was God's hand in it.
I'm just. If I get emotional today, people, you'll understand later on. But I still want to, praise God for the gifts that He's given you.
Thank
He really
you.
has. I mean, because you go out and you do a lot of the work and the grunt work and stuff, and it's just amazing. We were talking about that before, how it's a community. We can't do this alone, and I
Definitely.
want to leave that alone because our guest is going
Our
to
guest
share.
is going to share.
Yes.
We have a great in-studio guest, ladies and gentlemen,
Mhm.
here on Joy in My House. Is a clinical psychologist and one of the authors of Fire Your Excuses, which is out at Barnes & Noble's, Amazon right now. You can go and get it. It's for the Nook and the Kindle as well. He is going to be here today, and he's going to share about his book, DrBillDyment. You're not going to want to miss, ladies and
Right,
gentlemen.
right.
We're going to go to a quick commercial break because I want to bring him on board. He has a lot to share and a lot for us to be out there and
Because
be
we're still in the
blessed by.
process ourselves. We're
agree.
not saying we're finished products. So we're growing, aren't we?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I mean, I still attend my, every Tuesday
That's
night, my
it.
CR program. I still
do.
talk to my sponsor. I got to be in close connection with my recovery program because that's my foundation.
That's mine too. So come on back, you guys. Who
Ladies
wanna
and gentlemen,
call.
this is Joy in My House. I want to let you guys know the studio line is open at 323. Let me double check, 247-7443. And once again, please engage with us. Link up with us on Facebook /Joy in My House, Twitter /LA Talk Live, or /Joy in My House. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned.
That's right.
Where did the sweetness go, Lord? Have I fallen from your hand? Am I so far from you, Lord? Is my life in your plan? Where can I run when I feel all alone? Do my words truly reach you high on your throne? Where did your presence go, Lord? Have you pushed me far from your mind? Where did our laughter go? Will you smile on me one more time? How can I hope when the lights are growing dim? Love, this pressure is hard, and I feel that my life will cave in. And I heard you say, how can I forget you when you're resting in my hands? How can I forget you? For I want you to know that I love you so.
Do you suffer from degenerative diseases such as high blood pressure, diabetes, fibroid tumors, high cholesterol, genital herpes, or a plethora of other diseases that rob you of a quality life? If so, then visit the website of herbalist Tahuti Ma'atra at dhealthstore.com and open the door to natural healing at an affordable price. dhealthstore.com has over 1,800 products created by herbalist Tahuti Ma'atra, specifically designed to help you heal the natural and safe way. At DHealthStore.com, you'll find everything from herbal formulas and cleanses, such as Tahuti's famous Full Body Detox, as well as herbal teas, extracts, natural body butters, lotions, creams, children's products, hair care products, and of course, sexual enhancement products for both men and women. So visit the website of Tahuti Ma'atra, DHealthStore.com, or call toll free at 1-888-823-9416. DHealthStore.com.
Are you ready to enjoy the Maui lifestyle? You can have it all by owning real estate on the Paradise Island of Maui. Dennis Rush, a 22-year Maui resident and real estate broker, brings his wealth of experience and market knowledge to add value to your Maui real estate understanding, providing a level of service as unique and exceptional as the island of Maui itself. The magical island of Maui was voted the most exclusive resort island in the world by Condé Nast Traveler, and keep in mind, Maui is only a simple, non-stop flight away. Hawaii Business Magazine Top 100 Realtors awarded Dennis Rush the 2011 fourth top realtor on the island of Maui. Go to www.dennisrush.com to view all of the amazing properties currently available in the Maui MLS system. Whatever your needs or desires, Dennis Rush will provide a private consultation for any Maui properties your heart desires. You will be in good hands. Once again, go to www.dennisrush.com. That's www.dennisrush.com. Contact Dennis today to start your Maui lifestyle now. Dennis Rush, proud sponsors of the Dawn Christie Show and LA Talk Live.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to Join My House, inspirational reality radio show with a touch of recovery. I'm joined here by author of Shaped by the Master's Hands and recording artist Lolita Robinson as my co-host.
I'm glad to be back. I'm glad you guys stayed with us.
And we have our great in-studio guest today, Dr. Bill Dyment.
Yay!
From Fire Your Excuses organization in Anaheim. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
Well, I'm very excited. I always like to introduce our guests by how we met, and it's very interesting that I signed up for your newsletter in 2008.
Yeah, what caused you to do that? I wanted to ask you that.
Well, he was a clinical psychologist, and I was like, well, I need help. Anything that anybody had to offer, especially at that time of my recovery, I was scratching at the walls. Anything that I felt would bless me, I was signing up for. I was engaging with as best I could, as much as I could. And fast forward now, you sent me I'm part of your newsletter, so I got an email regarding your new book, Fire Your Excuses, that's out, and gave you a call and see if you wanted to come on the show, and faithfully you said yes. So I want to thank you for coming on the show and stepping out in faith.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And it's amazing how these newsletter links can work even over the years, huh?
Yeah, even over the years.
So there was no contact between 2008 and now?
Right. I had spoken in 2008. I think Joel was in my audience, and we did a little sign up, and I sent something out. And I said, I'm just going to send this out to some of the people that had heard about me in the past. It's been a number of years, and Joel called me next day or a couple of days later.
Oh, that's amazing.
It is amazing how it works.
Yeah,
God's
really
hand in it. That's really God's hand in it. Well, if you don't know Dr. Bill Dyment is a clinical psychologist out of Biola University, and he is one of the founders of the organization FireYourExcuses.org in Anaheim. And you're very proactive in helping and being a part of your community, especially in the corporate world, to solidify some of these organizations and help them succeed.
Yes, Dr. Dayhoff and I, we've known each other since college. He and I decided 4 years ago we wanted to kind of put down on paper some of the things that we had seen about recovery, about growth, corporate. Both he and I had spoken, 2,000 plus times to companies in 400 companies.
About recovery?
Well,
or
that
just
touched
the
upon
principles?
that. Yeah, when we also had our private practices, and we had done a lot of work within recovery. We'd both worked at Intercept program and other treatment centers, and seen a lot of folks that were going through recovery in our practice, and even some of the corporate folks that were sent to us. And we said, we need to put this down, not just for those in recovery, but we saw that really was an area where people were already thinking that way, but we all need recovery on some level or another.
Well, to kind of help to have healthier people in the workforce place. I mean, all these shootings and craziness going on. So that's the vision. Is that how you started with the Lord? I mean, in terms of that?
We had actually, even recently, we go out to shootings from time to time. That's part of what we do. We call it critical incident stress debriefing. But we had just seen a lot of different folks, and I'm 51, my co-author's 50. We went to college together. So together we'd done probably 50 to 60 years of clinical work and corporate work, and we just saw things that were perennials, that people needed to look at some areas that they were in denial about. And the way we talk about it is, if you have a computer and your computer's not running fast, it's hard to do the best work. And there might be 10% that's slowing you down. Maybe you're printing something or trying to make a video. And there's a lot of people running around that may or may not ever go to recovery, but they've got 10 or 20% in their life that they're just not going to do everything that God wants them to do. They're not going to go there.
You're being generous, 10 or 20%.
Yeah, I'm trying to be on the low side.
You're very sweet. I think it's a little bit
coming a little closer.
Yeah, there you go. Sorry. How's that?
And I did want to ask you,
that's incredible.
Want to start with your family of origin.
Yeah, sure.
Because I know that you grew up in Boston.
Yes.
So I wanted to touch base on that.
How's your family affected?
Yeah, it's been a big week, and I actually did a lot of my research for my bachelor's at Boston Public Library, which is 1 block away from that second bombing.
Wow.
And is a nice pizza place I would take friends in that's literally a block away too. So my family lives about 12 miles from there, and it's just like wherever you are in the world, your hometown is your hometown.
Right.
And I'm glad that they found the guys. My parents, they weren't in lockdown, but Watertown was one of the teams that we always played sport.
You?
About 12 miles away.
Okay.
So, but everybody around the world is thinking about it. My sister was overseas with some students in an exchange program. She was worried about it, and I think we all feel that it's sad on both levels. It's sad for the loss of life, and it's sad for the throwaway life of these two guys. Something went terribly wrong. There's evil in the world. We're not going to understand why.
Right.
But we're glad that there's some resolution, and it makes you think, doesn't it?
Well, maybe, and then also from the standpoint of what you're talking about, there's a lot of people that are. I heard last night that the older brother had a lot of potential. He was a boxer or something.
Yes.
And that he just, there was a link missing. He just could not get to that next level. He was disgruntled. And maybe that's what you're talking about with people.
Yeah, and there was some family issues. You've got separated family. We know that the mom had been picked up for shoplifting at Lord's and Taylor, which is literally where the video camera was that caught the brothers. So you think, is there a connection there? Here's where mom was caught, and then they try to bomb within a block away of mom's thing. But you see kind of the sins of the father. I'm not saying there's definitely a connection, but clearly there's some parental things and some separate things that happened where people were not getting the tutelage. And I understand the older brother was mentored by a guy that was in the community that radicalized him.
Right.
Probably right
there in
Cambridge.
He took advantage of that he was at a very broken spot. That's what I was saying, yes.
Well, we want to send out our prayers and our condolences out to the city of Boston and the families and people that this has affected. And, we want to keep you in our prayers.
People healing, the people in the hospital.
And ask God to give you guys comfort, to definitely give you your heart comfort. I did want to touch also on some of your accolades. So you were in Boston, came out to the West Coast.
Came out to Biola University, and I was fascinated by the field of psychology, but I really believe that we're mind, body, and spirit. So there's times where, hey, somebody's got depression. It seems to be more of a biological thing. There's family that have it for years and they're not even together, but they seem to show the same thing. Then there's spiritual reasons why I think people fall into all sorts of things. And then there's just other things that are just more emotional, that there's all three. So Biola's program at Rosemead kind of captured all three in a way that a lot of doctoral programs didn't, and it was worth me relocating to the West Coast. There's only 3 schools that did that at the time. And so I came out and I stayed.
Well, okay, but what about your family of origin? Were you guys Christians and coming up as a believer?
We were. Both my mom and dad grew up in tough situations. My mom's father was an alcoholic, great guy, coal miner, but she was first one to go to school, get out of the coal mining area, go to Ohio, become a nurse, and then go to Boston and get some more training. Yeah.
That's huge.
And then my dad's father died when my dad was 25. My dad was going to go on a fishing trip. He backed out, and I believe his grandfather maybe had a heart attack and died on the road. And his mom had died earlier when he was 14. So he raised himself, got into a lot of things himself, found the Lord probably at about 29 after dropping out of school and going to Korea and all that. And I'll tell you, what I love about my dad is he's somebody that just shows that you can start rough, you can fall into the wrong thing and you can be turned around. Because now he's a trustee at the very college he used to terrorize. He's 82 and he's still bringing it. You know?
Oh, wow.
He
That
still
is so
swims
cool.
a
Is your
quarter
mom-
mile.
your
Yeah,
mom-
my mom just turned 78 this week.
Oh,
So
he's
they're
still
both
swimming and
Yeah,
everything.
still swimming and rides a bike. I spent some time with him in Florida.
That's right.
Just a couple weeks ago, we visited another relative's sister.
So they gave you the fire.
Absolutely.
What
They
you
kind
would
of did
need
what
for
they
this book, the fire your excuses,
Yeah.
the platform of your life of where God took you. Did you know you wanted to be a therapist all this time?
You know, I knew that I wanted to be a doctor in something. I started off pre-med, and then I had a chance to go to Africa and see some babies being born. It was wonderful, but I felt like I'd be a little bit more of a mechanic of the body, and I wanted to deal more with people's personalities.
Right,
So my
right.
sister Wendy became the MD. She's been serving overseas for years,
wow.
went to Harvard.
Wendy, a shout out. She's still in Africa?
She is actually in Switzerland. She's been spending half of her time in Africa. She was in Africa for 5 years, in Sudan. Now she's based in Switzerland. She's going to be returning to the U.S., but she is just a tour de force. You know, talk about somebody who's doing medical, charitable mission work, where I think for psychology it works well for me. So I kind of made a switch, and she kind of continued on with that, and I think it fits her personality as well.
Oh, how your parents must be so proud. You know, listen to you talk. Your mother and father set the
They
foundation.
sacrificed.
They sacrificed, and I
sacrificed
feel
big
like I've
time.
done that with my boys. I probably
Yeah.
won't be able to do the things that I would like to do, but they will do. And I'm
Yeah.
seeing that in you and your sister.
Well, and I have two other sisters that are teachers that are incredible.
Oh, wow.
I can tell you that my mom at some point during my graduate work was working several jobs to make sure that several of us could continue and not be so buried
is
in debt.
amazing.
So not everybody's family can
Talking
do
about your
that.
family.
But I know, Joel, you were telling me your dad
Same
has been a
thing.
real champion for you.
Yeah, my father's my hero. You
Yeah.
know, he really sacrificed a lot and dedicated himself with no help. You know,
Yeah.
I'm blessed to have him and to have him as a stepping stone for my future. But
And your mama's a tough one, too.
yeah, and my mom has been there
She started
for
her
me.
own business, right?
Yeah, she had her own
business.
hair salon.
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
a lot. People
Yeah.
take that in. I mean, it's a whole lot to do that. to come to
Especially
this
coming from
country.
another country, not
Yeah.
knowing the language. I
That's
mean,
what
my
I'm
father
saying.
found education and grabbed a hold of it. Grabbed a hold of it.
And
but-
what's interesting,
This
a
is a
lot
lot.
of people look at me and they say, "Oh, you've been here for years." But my grandparents weren't born in the United States. You know, they were born in Canada. They came over. They came from England because they were struggling. We're all from somewhere else. It's a generational thing. One generation sacrifices to help the next person do better.
That's right.
And I think that's the American spirit. Is just we're all from somewhere else. We're all immigrants in some ways.
Yeah, I think that's very important to say because I know for my children, they're very blessed.
Yeah.
They're very blessed, and I hope that they use me as a stepping stone. But sometimes I think when they're in their teen years, are they appreciative? Do they understand?
No, they're not.
25 they will be.
They start coming around, No.
It blows me away how sometimes they behave when they're so very, very blessed. I wasn't as blessed as they were, but I was also blessed.
There you go.
And my parents were less fortunate.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
to have these
Well,
stepping
you're
stones,
breaking cycles, which I'm sure today you're going to talk about. I can't
Generational,
wait to
yes.
get to.
Yeah, I think the teen years, Joel, is a little bit too early for the kumbaya moment. You're really hoping for 25, 30 that want to
Exactly.
hang out with you. That's the goal,
exactly.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that
Anything
is
in the
goal.
teens,
And then they get
is a bonus.
married. I mean, it's a
there
life.
you go. Oh, there you go. The empty nest.
I know.
Yeah, and
empty
I
nest.
agree with that too because me having a daughter, from adolescence, from toddler to teenage, that is cool.
Yeah.
Right.
During the teenage years, no,
Not so much.
it's cool.
No, you're not.
I mean, come on now, Dad. Step away, go back in the wings, and then when they become young women or young adults, then we cool again.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
are. You are. You got sense, then.
Well, I do want to take one more quick commercial break because when we come back, we want to talk about your book.
Yeah.
Now, let's get a little preface to the book. The book is Fire Your Excuses.
I love that already.
Great book. You can find it on Amazon.com. You can find it on Barnes & Noble. I know you have a book signing coming up this weekend. You just had one this last Saturday.
Yes, just yesterday.
Tell us a little bit about the book before we go to commercial break. And let's
Yeah.
give them
Yeah.
a teaser out
Yeah.
there.
There you go. Want to give a shout out to my co-author, Dr. Marcus Dayhoff. He and I worked on it together. We've got a test that you take, and it's great. You can get 20 pages of information based on your excuses. And we look at 8 areas, and we'll talk about that when we come back. But I think you'll enjoy it.
And I like that time. That what do you call that? The time glass.
The hourglass.
The hourglass.
Because time is running out.
It's
Don't
running
wait.
out.
It's game time. get in the game.
I like
Now let's
it.
mention some of your websites and
Yeah,
Facebook
there you
pages.
go. Just keep it simple. FireYourExcuses.com. We have a fan page. If you click on that, you'll hear about things coming up. If you take the test or you sign up for our newsletter, we really hope people sign up for the newsletter. That way we can be in contact with you. But you can call us or email us through the website, FireYourExcuses.com, or go on Facebook and type Fire Your Excuses, sign up as a fan, and we'll let you know what's going on.
Perfect.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Stay
this
tuned.
is Joy in My House. I want you to stay tuned. We're going to come back with Dr. Bill Dyment and his new book, Fire Your Excuses. And he's going to give you some of the areas of your life that you need to have no more excuses over so you can succeed as well. This is Joy in My House, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned.
Is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. Dare not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly lean on Jesus' name. Who Christ is solid rock I stand. All other ground is sinking sand. All other ground, yeah, is sinking sand. Ooh, yeah. When he shall come with trumpet sound, oh, may I then in him be found, standing in his righteousness alone, for standing before his throne. Ooh, Christ is solid rock I stand. All of the ground is sinking sand. All of the ground, yeah, is sinking sand. Ooh, on Christ the solid rock I stand. All of the ground is sinking sand. All of the ground is sinking sand.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Joy in My House, inspirational reality radio show with a touch of recovery. A reality radio show where nothing is left unsaid.
And no one is insignificant, whoever says it.
I'm joined here by my co-host and author of Shaped by the Master Sound and recording artist, Lolita Robinson.
I'm so excited to be here. I want to learn. I'm going to take in what he's saying today.
We have a great in-studio guest, Dr. Bill Dyment from Fire Your Excuses organization out of Anaheim.
Thank for having me again.
Welcome
and
to the show.
shout out to
Welcome.
Van Eric, who
Our
chimed
producer
in.
here.
Love him very much.
We wanted to get right into it. I mean, I know that we're very excited, and I know Lolita's very excited to talk about your book, Fire Your Excuses. First of all, why'd you write it?
Right.
Well, that's a good question. I know Marcus and I am 51 now. When we were about 48, we said it's time to go big or go home.
Okay.
And we had been working with people for, like, as I mentioned before the break, for probably 25 years times two. We'd had about 50 years of experience, and we said, we're seeing some patterns here.
And I noticed that you've spoken for some Fortune 500 companies, Disney Worldwide, Studios, Hewlett Packard, Verizon. I mean,
Google, yes. Yeah, I've had a chance to get to a lot of places and mainly speak about employee wellness. My doctoral research was on stress and how people do at work. It's now moved a little bit more into change, and that's really what the book's about is
And patterns. You were saying patterns.
patterns and personal change that's permanent, as well as corporate change that's permanent. So those are kind of two sides of the same coin. But I just did a presentation the other day for WebMD. We're doing a series for them, for their employees, and for Toshiba and for Verizon. So I do a lot of corporate work, but I have a small private practice down by South Coast Plaza in Costa Mesa, California, in Orange County, where I work individually. So this is more of a book that focuses on the individuals, but says, hey, America's recovery is going to have to begin with us. We're all in recovery in some way. The cavalry's not coming. You know, the rescue team is distracted. And what are we going to do to look at some areas, just like we saw in our own lives, that if we don't make a change now, it's now or never.
Right.
So that was the impetus for writing.
well, let's talk about some of those personal ownerships of our excuses
Yes.
and how they self-limit our behaviors.
Yeah, absolutely. I would tell you that it's easy to say that I would do this if it wasn't for this, if it wasn't for that. So that we all have obstacles.
Yeah.
But I love the quote by John Wooden, Coach John Wooden from UCLA, passed away a couple years ago. He said, "Don't let what you can't do keep you from doing what you can." So we
Like
started
the serenity
to
prayer.
Yeah. Accept the things I cannot change, and we started to say, where are the areas where people make the most excuses? And we came up with 8 of them.
Well, let's talk
Well,
about
let's
a couple
talk
of
about
them.
them. Yeah.
There you go. Well, I can go through a few real quick. Blind spots and weaknesses is kind of the obvious one. If you do not see yourself, then nobody else is going to be able to help you. You've got to be able to talk and be able to ask for some feedback. If you don't see it, that's the first excuse is, hey, I've got nothing wrong. And we all know denial, right? And I would say if you're so happy, your face didn't get the memo.
Right,
everybody
right.
knows you're not happy.
So is that talking about like your past work or just stuff that's going on today? Or are you talking about delving in and finding out the dynamics in your family of origin?
Well, people will come to see us. People will be attracted to self-help books that just skim the surface. Hey,
Right.
just make a change. And usually we find it's deeper than that. People don't want to go there. They just want a prescription, here's the time management thing.
That's
but
right.
They don't want to look at what's driving
An
it.
easy fix.
So time management for us is just one of them too. We believe it starts with emotional management. People often have the time and don't do it, not because of the time issue, but because of the emotions. So time management is one too. We look at health and wellness. We know a lot of people aren't going to make it past 70 or so. I don't know if you know this, guys, that 13 out of 100 Americans won't see retirement. And
Because of their health?
Because of their health.
Okay.
13 out of 100 won't make it. So we think we're going to live to 80. People overestimate how long they're going to live. So that's a huge area of excuses. Just we're fine, we're fine, we're fine. Then we look at communication. We look at our connections socially. A lot of people are isolated. Our finances, our career, how well we serve. Those are the 8 that we look at in the book.
Okay, and that helps in terms, is this affecting people in the workplace and in their personal lives? If these things are off kiltered, if one thing is missing or two things?
Both. And so we have a little assessment that you take and you see which are the top areas where your excuses lie. If you take the test at fireexcuses.com, it's private. You get a 20-page report, and that becomes kind of a place to begin and say, where are these areas? And we say, hey, pick 3. Work on one of them a month. The book talks about a challenge for whatever one that is, and then take the test again in 3 months and see if there's some change. You may need to do some coaching. We do that. You may need to do some therapy, but sometimes sleeping dogs are not really asleep. And every year we say we're going to lose weight. Every year we're going to say we're going to do that. And if we had to bet, we have to say, unfortunately, that's not going to happen because it's deeper. And I think I told you before the show began, our heart is, let's make 2013 not the year that we just try harder and say, just do it. We love that slogan, but sometimes just do it doesn't work. Let's make 2013 the year we get more connected, and then it will be easier. So last thing for this little segment, my personal story is I struggled with the same 10 pounds for 20 years. I finally said, you know what?
wouldn't know it.
Yeah, you wouldn't know it.
No, but I think with the good Lord's help and some of the principles, I've been able to fix it because I put myself in a small group with people that are 45 to 50, and all of them are in great shape. And
Oh, my goodness.
my girlfriend is in great shape. I've surrounded
Oh, she's
myself.
beautiful. Bernadette, we want you to come on.
There you go. I've surrounded myself with people that have what I lack. And that helped me to make the change and make it permanent. But just saying I need to be disciplined, I did that every year for 20 years. It's not going to happen. So that's what we're saying. Get more connected. Don't try harder. Get more connected. That's a big principle of the book.
Well, that's what we talk about in support groups. I mean,
Yeah.
we from the emotional standpoint, you do need the accountability. You do need other people to. But it is better if you're the one who has the most recovery in the room. They tell us in the meeting, you need to get out of there.
Yeah.
Because you need to strive for healthier people, healthier goals. I get what you're saying.
It's like always playing tennis with somebody worse than you. You're not going to get better, right? You got to
That's
choose
true.
partners that are better than you.
Yeah, that's very true.
And I like what your book talks about discipline.
Yeah.
I think it's important that we make these decisions. A lot of times we sit and we make these New Year's resolutions or we make these empty promises.
Right.
I think it's important that we have the discipline to be proactive. I know for my recovery, and this is my emotional recovery, I had to be in program. I had to show up to these meetings more than just once a month. It was on a weekly basis, even several times a week, in order for me to get the help that I needed. And I think it's important that we mention that it is a lifestyle.
Yeah, I've heard one person say, and we actually wrote a lot about this, is sometimes we just need stronger medicine. I've had people come to my practice and say, I went to AA, it didn't help. Well, how often did you go? Well, I went 3 weeks ago and I didn't like that group and I
Right.
haven't been.
Yeah, I hear that all the time.
And I say,
yeah.
well, aren't you aware that some people need 90 meetings in 90 days? Now, not everybody does, but they just need stronger medicine. So I know this one story I love of a guy that wrestled with an addiction for 10 years, met a woman, really wanted to get married, and every 3 weeks he'd slip in. He finally went to get some extra support, went to a group. I think it was Celebrate Recovery in this case. 3 weeks into it, he slipped for the last time, and that was 10 years ago.
Wow.
But he could have been slipping for another 10 years
Right.
every month. He just needed stronger medicine.
Well, in terms of what you're talking about, connection, maybe you can explain that to people. I think people think they're connected. They're connected online. They're connected, Facebook, social
Yeah.
media. I mean, what do you mean when you say connected?
Well,
What's the importance of that?
Yeah, let me give you a couple stats.
Okay.
In 1984, Americans had an average of 3 close friends. Now they're down to just 2. In many cases, it's their spouse and somebody else if they're lucky. So we have more, we travel more, but we have fewer connections. There was a study out of UCLA that said the people that live in the Los Angeles area, and I think by extension we could say it's true of the United States, but definitely here, we need 3 to 4 good face-to-face real connections a week, or we're going to start struggling with some mood issues. And now there are millions of people, they say 20 to 40 million Americans that would never seek therapy, never go to the group, but they are not going to be people that do the best they can do in life because they're underconnected. So
That's very true.
They may not even
Is
realize
that,
it.
when you're saying underconnected, because I do want to talk later on about 3 doctors that have been phenomenal. We talked about them.
Sure, yeah.
From what they were talking about, being connected is being known. In other words, somebody has to know
Can
all
call
of
you,
you.
yes.
They have to know the parts that are hurting. They have to know the parts that are not working to help work through that. Isn't that like in childhood? I mean, you have to have people to develop and grow with. Is that what you're saying in terms of?
Yeah, we find our identity in the mirror of other people.
Right.
So some of us didn't grow up with families where people were able to mirror us because they had their own addictions and issues or hurts. We might talk about benign neglect where they're not mean, but they're just caught up in their own thing. But when you have 3 or 4 people that know you and you can get real, that could happen even at work, but you have to talk about things other than work. It could be at a coffee shop. I'm in a small group once a week because I need that. I go to a men's group every other week.
And here you've been at it how long? 50 year? I mean, 50 year practice experience.
Well, I'm saying
people need to hear that.
25 years,
Right.
and together we've done 50, but
Right.
we have to take our own medicine. But I said, nobody has to help me to study. I learned how to do that. That's my thing.
Right.
But they had to help me with my health because that was in my area of weakness. And we all have areas where nobody has to tell you to practice your singing.
Right.
But
right.
you might need help in another area.
Oh, I did.
And just to
Most
recognize
definitely.
that we all have it. Example, I've had people that would never take a substance, but they'll spend 5 or 6 hours a night playing video games.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
That's just as much of a drug. People that read too much of a good thing. So we all have our areas.
No, that's very well said, and we want to tell the audience out there that's what it means. I mean, if people don't really know you and they're not connected with you, then you're hiding, and that's what I was doing. I would never be able to be doing what I'm
agree.
doing now
Yes.
if it hadn't been for the support group and the therapists and the people who came around me in those places that were broken and dark and ugly and loved me through it. They held me accountable, but I had to grow through it in order to. I think that's why we see a lot of people sabotaged. From the president to corporate America. Would you say you have these people who are CEOs who?
Well, how about this? Even if we don't even look at that level, people
Okay.
that are mid-level and they could progress in their career, but the stress of it is not what they want, and they just never go beyond.
Right.
And the reason why
There
the
you
stress
go.
is there is there's some demons that they're dealing with that are part of their addictive nature, part of their struggle, part of the areas that are broken. And when they add the stress, they can't handle it.
That was
Once
oh my
they get
gosh.
healed, they're able to take on a little bit more stress.
That's me.
And they can go on for more. And so that's really who our book is for, is
Oh,
people
I
that are
can't
kind
wait.
of
Afraid.
done a little bit,
I've been afraid to go further.
but get stuck partway through it, because you can get away with a lot of addictive behavior low level for a while, but you're never going to be the best how God made you. You're going to have to deal with that. It's like running a race with a little bit of cement in your marathon sneakers. You know, it's not going to work.
So you have to have, in other words, you have to have the work in order to go to the levels that you want to go.
Yes.
Or you
do.
can't do it.
And even if people
Well,
can
some
go
people
up there,
do, but what happens?
but they crash and burn.
That's what okay.
You know, they melt down. We all know people in entertainment and
Right.
sports that have just got there but didn't have the infrastructure, didn't have the healing, didn't have the connection, and it got too high and they crash and burn.
You know, it's really exciting. Did you want to say something?
No,
Juan?
I completely
Yeah.
concur with that. Having my studio and everything, I was very successful, but because I was acting out, drinking and acting out, crashed and burned.
Yeah.
And until I really went back and dealt with that for
And
5
still,
years
yeah.
and still a process,
Yeah.
have I been able to step out of that and move on from that and kind of put that guilt and shame in its place and make my amends and ask my forgiveness.
That's great. Work through the steps.
Yeah, working my steps. Now I'm able to kind of step out a little out front where before I wouldn't because of all that. It held me back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, as you talk more about your book, I mean, I'm so glad to know you personally now and to be able to go, because I live with the Road Less Traveled.
Yeah, it's a great book.
I've had to just literally with my Bible, my recovery, and the Road Less Traveled. I was just reading the end where he was talking about even in the Army, the soldiers do not want to they're looking for corporals and majors and generals. They don't want to go to that next level. Most people are afraid to get well because of what you said.
Yeah. Yeah. And so these are folks that a lot of them will never seek help. They'll do fine, but you just know that there could be more. And it takes a lot of humility and insight to get rid of those blind spots to say, you know what, I'm stuck here. I'm stuck either at the bottom or I'm stuck in the middle or I'm not all I could be. And I think we know when we feel that way.
Right, right.
Well, I do want to touch also the endorsement on the book is by a
Yes,
great doctor,
yes.
Dr. John Townsend, which Lolita knows personally was a
Well,
big
not
part
personal, but I was in part of their ministry of attending.
That's personal
Yeah.
to me. I mean,
Yeah.
and I know he was a big part of the process and the growth that you went through. I wanted to hear a little bit about that.
Well, when Joel told me that you were coming on and that you can explain to me your relationship with Dr. Townsend and.
Yeah, well, John and I both went to Rosemead together, and he has a group that he worked with for many years called New Life Clinics. And I was part of that. And then he did a series. We called it Wednesday Night Applications. He would do a kickoff of his book, and then I would take a chapter. So we've crossed paths through the years. And so when we came time to write, we said, John, would you give us some ideas? Because you've written a lot. So John was really instrumental in kind of encouraging us. We'd meet for coffee every 6 months or so. And I should tell you, it was a 4.5-year process. This was not one of those just go to a cabin and, put on a flannel shirt and light the fire. That's your third book. Your first book.
So he worked with you along with the book.
He encouraged us, and he
some principles.
Yeah,
to
he
tie
said
it
this is
together.
how we did it. This is how John and Henry. He worked with Henry Cloud on a lot of books. How we worked together. But I really just say, hey, thanks, and he put his name on the back of it, and we're glad to have him on board. So.
Well, the thing that blesses me is when Joel told me that, I really got teary-eyed, and I had the pleasure of going to Monday Night Solutions for 10 years when Dr. Cloud, Dr. Stoop, and Dr. Townsend were doing their clinics. And I went to their seminars, all of them. And I always tell people, I'm not a person of color because my family's multicultural, but for this black woman and these men from the South to come, that God used in an intricate way to help me find my way. And I just love those men. I hear them in my head all the time. And it was because of them I found my therapist, Dr. Keith Dowds. I was with Keith for 17 years. And I'm just so touched and so blessed that God brought this in a full circle, how he brought Joel to you in 2008. And it's a tie to me from these men, and to meet you, I am just absolutely.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I believe, as one person said, there's some languages that don't have a word for coincidence, and I forget which one, but it's amazing how that works. And we're all just trying to help each other, and it makes it more fun. And that's one of the things we're learning is that don't wait to partner with people. You can share resources, encouragement, because years ago you could just do it on your own. But now, as we're saying with the book and all, you can't do this on your own. It couldn't have happened on our own. And this show can't. And it just makes it easier for everybody and a lot more fun.
Well, how do you fire your excuses, doctor? I mean, how do you, with somebody that is stuck?
Yeah, let's talk about
sure,
some practical applications.
Yes,
there you go. Well, I think it begins by knowing which ones are the most in need of attention. Is it your health? Is it your finances? Is it how you serve? Because really the capstone of all this is not to make you this uber person. It's to make you more of a servant to others. This is what it's all about. So sometimes we recognize that there's a couple areas that we've wrestled with. So at some point we have to look at what does more medicine look like? Is it going to a group? Is it talking to a therapist? Is it doing coaching? Some of my people are ready for coaching, and we do that. Other people may need some more counseling. But whatever you need, but taking that step. I'm putting together now a mastermind group. I have some of the emotional and spiritual groups that I'm going to, but I recognize that as Pastor Rick Warren says, we are better together. And so I'm going to get together a group of guys, and we're just going to talk business. We're going to talk about spirituality and our faith. But I know that this is what Ben Franklin did 200 years ago. He called it his junto, which is kind of like Espanol, junta.
Yes,
meeting,
yes.
a gathering. It's a Latin for a meeting. But he did this for 37 years. And I'm saying, you know what, that's the next thing, is to get together and do it together. So recognizing where the areas are, be willing to say, I'm not going to just try harder. Because I tell people, if you feel like you can do it on your own, give yourself 6 months.
Hello.
If you haven't lost the weight, if you haven't stopped that habit,
Yeah.
then don't waste another day. Add some more connection.
Well,
That's
how do you
what
do
we're
that?
saying.
Well, how do you do that with the corporation? So what do you tell them? It's hard. I know as a singer, the hardest parties are corporate parties.
Yes, there you go.
Because they don't want to get up and dance, because they don't want it to get back around the audience. Back to the office. And so how do you get people that work together to be in this community of what you're saying?
Well, some people get that, some people don't. That's where the team building comes into the picture. I'm doing a team building offsite this week for 3 hours, and half of it is just skills for work. The other half is just getting them together, but to see if they're willing to go a little deeper. So some people say, hey, my personal life is my personal life, but we know that there's an overlap.
Oh, you know.
If you have things going on at
True.
home and you're not being honest with it, it's going to come out at work. You're just going to be not present. And we're finding that in a corporate team, if you just say, I'm good at what I do, I work alone, you're not going to do well in today's culture. We work together. And that's the whole social media network project management system. And we're helping people to say, these are skills. So we might have said, be intellectual, know your stuff, be good to people. But now we have to have a network quotient. We have to be willing to work together. That's what our business requires. That's how most business gets done these days.
Well, you said 20 years ago it was different.
Yeah, I think 20 years ago, if you had some knowledge and you were a good dentist, you could set up a shop and you'd be fine. Now, if you're not networked with other dentists and you're not online, you're going to be a nice person, but you're going to be a dinosaur.
Really?
And that's what I'm saying.
Wow.
So I would say I'd rather see a B student who has a great network than a genius A student that is a lone ranger. And the same is definitely true with recovery. That principle is so true.
No, I believe that. I think, I always say God put us on this earth for relationships, and we need one another. We definitely need one another for accountability, for love.
Absolutely.
I mean, just even as parents, we need our family, our parents to feed us, to nurture us, to help us grow, to direct us. So I think it's very important that we tell our audience and viewers out there what the next step is. If they are alone and they're hurting,
Right.
what is the next step for
Yeah,
them?
break the silence. You may have heard that statement. You're
All the
only
time.
as sick as your secrets. And here's what happens in my office. Imagine we're in a room today with 4 walls, of course, and I have people that are looking on one wall for 30 years. They come in and they say, you don't get it. I've suffered for 30 years. And I have to say in a humble way, and it may take me 3 months to get to them, but to say, you know what? I know you've been looking for the light switch on that wall. I know your fingers are bruised and bloody looking for that. But the light switch is over here. And 30 more years looking on that wall will just be even more futile. So the length of time you suffered is not a good indicator of whether or not there's hope. If you know where there's hope to find, we can find that hope. And that's why going to a group is so powerful, is that gentleman I mentioned, 10 years of suffering and then 3 weeks in a group and it's over. That's the power of it. So having people say, I'm willing to do something about it. And I've had people come to my office and I say, I don't think you're ready to stop drinking yet. I don't think you're ready to give up that abusive relationship yet. They're just not ready. And trusting people to, as we say in the book, to choose their pain. And sometimes it breaks my heart. They're not ready. The pain of what they're going through is not bad enough for them yet.
That's right.
But then they come back later
Hitting
sometimes.
bottom, as they call it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Sometimes they come back later.
I think you mentioned that. I wish I can find it in my notes, but we talked about that, how your excuses and the level of damage that you're willing to go through for having those excuses. Yeah. And I wanted to talk about that because we all have excuses. Why not this? Why not that? But in some degrees,
fear. Wouldn't you say fear? Fear of failure, fear of success.
Sometimes
fear of being known, which was mine.
There's a lot of fears, and sometimes the pilot light of hope has flickered out. So that's why when people go and hear other people's stories, they say, wow, that person seems like he was worse off than I was. She was worse off than I was. And if they did it, I can do it. And I feel you can find that in reading books. You can find that hearing stories here. You've told your story. There may be somebody out there right now saying, it may be too late for me. I'm not sure I can do this. And you say, hey, I told you my story before I went on, that my dad was really into a lot of heavy things and wasn't doing well, dropped out of school, was in gangs, did some drugs here and there, and yet his life turned around. So when I meet people that are in that place, I say, I'm the son of a guy who turned his life around. He's 82 now. He's been a trustee of a college for years. There's hope.
Did he get in a group setting?
He did. I think it was the Lord that connected him, and he just said, I've reached the end of myself. He hit his bottom. He was about 28 years old when he did. He married my mom, and I came along when he was 30. But, I know that there's life change. But some people need to be around people enough to believe there's even possible to hope.
So basically what you're saying and what we're saying is reach out. Stop trying to do it by yourself. Well, how do you tell these kids that? They are so, my mother and I think I told this before, we went to a place at lunchtime and we were amazed. It was kids 20, 30 years old, and everybody, I'm not kidding you, in that eating area was doing something. Their heads were down. They weren't talking. I mean, how do you get that across to the kids today where isolation really is, wouldn't you say?
It can be a real problem, and I think that's where you have some boundaries and some firewalls. We talk a little bit about clean time, where you say, these are the meals where we're going to put away our iPhones and our smartphones, and that's it. We're going to go 1970. We're going to go retro. I'm as techie.
I'm a 70. Hey, we were 70, but hey.
But I'm as techie as the rest of them. But I need one day a week where I just kind of get off the grid, and I'm not trying to return emails, and I'm just spending time, whether it's hanging with friends, worship, just face to face. And that's where the 3 to 4 contacts come in, because some people have trouble doing this.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
And sometimes they're better at online than we are, but there's a balance there.
There is a balance.
There
and it's an importance
balance.
for it. That's what the doctor's saying. It's an importance for you. There's so much depression out there, so much despair. I have a friend that we get together we lost our husbands, we're widows. And for 2 years, we've been getting together, and we're healing during that time. But she works for a hospital. She's a transcriber for reports. Suicide with young people is horrendous.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of that.
And so that's what you're saying. Get connected.
Right.
Get connected.
Yeah, it's just so you're going to do so much better in life. You don't have to try as hard. You surround yourself with people you want to become like, and I think that's what one author I really like, Dan Miller. He wrote a book called 48 Days to the Job You Love. He said you are the average of your 5 closest friends. So you think about that.
Mean?
Well, you think about that. You say, okay, are all my friends kind of a project? Are they all like me, but a little bit worse? Just like playing tennis. You want to widen the circle. You don't want to get rid of those friends, but you want to put some other people around you that are doing a little bit better. And then just by showing up, you're going to do better. My friends at my little group, if I reach for the second cookie, they're going to go, Bill. Okay. There's other friends, if I reach for the third cookie, I'm just getting started, and they're going to hand me 5 more.
Okay.
So I choose where I hang out, but I know that I have cookie challenges. I have ice cream challenges, and I have to choose where I spend my time.
That's very well said.
Well, let's give a quick conclusion to your book.
Absolutely.
Leave them with something. Fire Your Excuses is in stores right now at Barnes & Nobles. You can also find this on Amazon.com, and it is ready to go if you want to download the book for your Nook and for your Kindle as well. But I did want to give them a small conclusion, then we're going to talk about your book signing event.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's give them a small conclusion to your book. What would they get out of purchasing this book when they sit down and read? What are they going to get out of it,
I think they're going to hear in stereo the ways that you address each of these 8 areas. You may not struggle with the health, but you might struggle with the finances. You might struggle with the time. You're going to hear something, but as you read the book, and you might not read it right away. You might read it little by little, but it's going to give you a guidebook to say, this is the way that I make it stick, not just change for a New Year's resolution or some type of reunion. I went back to a reunion and I heard a joke. They said, my 20th reunion, half the people weren't there. The other half looked like they ate them. And if that's you and you don't want that, you don't want to just diet down for that. You want to make it stick. So that's what you're going to learn.
Great.
Really
Once
good.
again, the book, Fire Your Excuses. They can also find you on Facebook at fireyourexcuses.com. You also have an organization, Fire Your Excuses organization. Let's talk a little bit about that and what you're giving back.
We do coaching. So if people say, you know what, I have a book in me, or I have something I want to change, we'll work with you. We'll either do a 1-session model or we'll do a longer model. Maybe you need a little bit of counseling. If so, we'll refer you to that. We'll see about that. But some of you are just saying, I'm ready to go. I need a coach. I know that I just need somebody to begin the process and help me connect and help me figure out where I go so I can be what I feel like I could be.
Like Dr. Townsend did for you for 4 years.
Absolutely. And I love the quote by Andy Stanley. He's a speaker and pastor. He says, what won't happen in the world if you don't do the things you're called to do? And so for us to change, we have to get a little emotional. We have to say, I won't be there for my granddaughter's wedding. I won't start this ministry or movement to help kids. But once you get at the time is moving and I'm not going to be able to do that, then that gives you the impetus to say it's time to fire my excuses.
Mm-hmm.
Good for you.
And you've had to fire your own, didn't you?
Absolutely. And Marcus will tell you his
was
own
it
story.
Was it just with the eating?
That was pretty much the big one, I think. And being
Were
isolated.
you an emotional eater or?
Yeah, I think
or
so.
one?
Yeah, I think I was an emotional eater. I
Okay.
grew up in Boston, a lot of pizza, a lot of this.
Yeah, hello.
But I
Yeah.
also knew that I was an isolator.
Mhm.
I would just go in my cocoon and I would get all smart and write. And I said, I need to network. I need to be around people. I was generally a gregarious person, but I wasn't a person that connected and said, I need help with my business. I need help with this. I was a do-it-myself kind of guy.
See,
And
I
that
love
wasn't going to
that.
work.
I like to read a book of someone who had to fire their own excuses.
Absolutely.
I don't like people who just come as know-it-alls, book knowledge. You've lived it.
Well, and that's why we had to be 47 to start writing.
Hello.
We didn't have any game until then.
That's
But we
right.
talk about
That's
that a
right.
lot.
Yeah.
Before we go, and Lolita always talks about credibility.
Yeah.
She's walked through that fire, so when she speaks, she's speaking from not only from the heart and passion, but from the knowledge that she has gone through it. And I think that gives a lot of credibility.
There you
And
go.
I think it's important.
That's right. People want to know.
And I want to talk about your book signing. You have a great book signing coming up at South Coast Plaza,
Oh,
right across
wow.
the way
you
at
go.
the Barnes & Noble,
Snazzy.
May 4th, 12 to 3. Now, what are you going to be doing there? Let's talk
There
about
you go. We're going to be at Barnes & Noble. We were at Barnes & Noble in Orange, California yesterday.
Yes.
We're going to do another one, as you said, at right behind South Coast Plaza there, at South Coast Metro, Barnes & Noble, upstairs, I believe.
I'm glad
From
they still have
12
some still.
Yeah, there you go. From 12 to 3. So we'd love to meet you. Come on down if you're in the area, Southern California. And if not, connect with us online. And here's something. Let us know what products you want. Do you want some video? Do you want a t-shirt? Do you want a certain package? We're open. We want to do a kind of a crowdsourcing thing. We're working on our next things. We want the audience to tell us what would go best with this book. Let us know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, workbook. I
There
know
you go.
John and Henry
Yep,
have
we're-
all those workbooks.
we're
Changes
working
to
on one of
Heal,
those. Yeah,
you know,
there you go.
all that. Would you please give them a big hug?
I
and
will,
tell Dr.
absolutely.
Townsend I
I
love him
will.
and Dr.
We'll get 'em on the
Cloud.
show. We'll see if we can get 'em on the
Please,
show.
please. I love you guys. Thank you so much. This has been encouraging for me. I'm going to read this, people, because I still have some things where
Same here.
I'm a little hesitant to, because what's it going to mean? I don't want to be known as much, but hey, we're servants. We give back.
That's right.
It's not to be known to be like a celebrity. It's to get out there to get the help.
And I think,
Connect.
that's what I know when we had a chance to talk and sit down for coffee. You mentioned that a lot. It's about service.
Yes.
What it comes down to is about
Right.
us giving back and us
To
serving.
Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one thing that we've been having fun with is we've been giving away 10% of our profits to a water project. And
In Africa?
Yep, done some work in
Right.
Africa over the years. And I said, we can't save the world, but we can do something. And we wrote that first check, and I'll tell you, it was just a joy.
Oh.
And we talk about the helper's high. If you're just thinking, hey, this is a get rich quick, it is not. It is how can you have leverage? How can you have impact? How can you serve others? That's what we think it's about.
Well, that's the
great.
magic. That's the
Well-
tie into the magic question.
The question that we ask, the premise of our
Yeah.
show is, joy in my house. We always like to ask our guests and our special,
And can I ask him one other thing? Can you talk to the churches too? I know Rick Warren and Saddleback and people are Mariners, but other people that may not know about recovery for churches, how would you tie this in with Joy in My House and to encourage them?
Well, I'll tell you, this is a great show for those of you who may be investigating recovery or in the process of recovery. I think we all know here at this location about Celebrate Recovery, which is a worldwide organization started at Saddleback. I think John Baker, and he's been on the show, right?
No,
And
we actually
you're
just
gonna-
spoke
you're
to
gonna-
him
you're
and
gonna
gonna have him on the
yes.
show.
But that's a great group. But whether you go an AA kind of a group or go to Celebrate Recovery, just break the silence, take that step, and it will just shorten the years. So I think this is a great place where people can learn. And it's kind of a experience where you kind of say, okay, I get it. I've heard this 15 weeks in a row. I'm ready to take a step. I've heard it in stereo. I'm going to do something. And some of you are right on that edge, and I hope this will put you over the edge.
And what's the joy in your house, young man?
Is the good Lord Jesus. He has been somebody that has been with me, and he will never waste a tear. He'll never waste suffering. I heard one person say, suffering is not optional, but whether it makes you bitter or better is something that you choose if you give it to God and you say, Lord, make something meaningful of the suffering. We can't avoid it, but it can make us bitter or better.
Wow.
Very well said. Thank you
Well, I
so
just
much
want
for
to thank
coming
you for
Thank you.
coming
on.
on
Thanks
the
for
show.
having me.
Thank you so much. Dr. Bill Diamond, author of Fire Your Excuses. It's in bookstores at Barnes & Noble. It's also at Amazon.com. You can also find him on Facebook, /Fire Your Excuses on his fan page. And you can visit his website, fireyourexcuses.com as well. Don't forget to join us next week. Sunday, we go live at noon. This is Joy in My House, ladies and gentlemen. Next week, we're going to have Heidi Davis. She's going to be sharing her testimony about hope and redemption. You're not going to want to miss. This is Joy in My House, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you for being with us.
Stay blessed.
Bye-bye.
I'm always in one of mine. Constant spins, not trusting. He opens doors to go in, but I'm afraid to depend upon him. I bring him ashes for gold. He starts to work